Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's episode, I am joined by sophomore on the Arizona State Women's Club hockey team, Sam Murphy. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Sam, and how's everything going?
It's going really well. How are you doing, Matthew?
I'm doing well. I'm a bit nervous. Obviously, while we're recording this, it's game seven for the Bruins and Panthers. So hopefully my bees will come through and win the series, but
Yeah,
it hasn't been good the last two games, to say the
I
least.
know. I'm a big Bruins fan myself, and everyone's been telling me that based off of the history of people who kind of finish first, they kind of aren't favored to win the cup. So I still have my fingers crossed though.
We'll see what happens, but it'll be
Mhm.
another tough series if they pull through against Toronto. So I'm excited for that one if that does happen. That's always a good playoff series. So, how did you become a Bruins fan, being from Ottawa?
My mom in like high school was really good friends with Don Sweeney. So when I was younger, we'd do a lot of trips out to Boston, and he would take us to a bunch of Bruins games, and we get to go in the locker room and kind of like meet the coaches and meet some of the players. So I just kind of like grew up around the Bruins and just kind of fit right into it.
That's awesome. Do you still talk to Don Sweeney today, especially since he's now the GM?
Yeah, occasionally. We anytime we go out to Boston, we'll meet up with him and like grab dinner or something.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know he's a busy guy, but that's
Mhm.
still cool that you get to see him here and there.
It's really cool. I'm really fortunate to get to know the GM of my favorite team.
Now, I do want to start off this podcast sort of talking about the beginning of your hockey career and sort of leading up to where you are today. So I sort of jumped the gun a little bit, but you are from Ottawa. So talk about growing up there and how did you start playing hockey?
Growing up in Ottawa was really awesome. It's massive city, but I grew up in a suburb called Canada. So just like a bunch of families around, all different kinds of hockey teams that you could play for, bunch of schools. It's just like a really safe neighborhood, really awesome place to grow up. But I got into hockey because my parents were both athletes growing up. My dad was a professional football player, and my mom was a college volleyball player. And they both kind of decided that my brother and I have an older brother. Oh, sorry. I have an older brother. And they both decided that we needed to play sports growing up. So obviously, being in Canada, they said, let's kind of see if they like hockey. So they put my brother into it, and he just absolutely loved it. So then when I was 4, they got me learning how to skate, and I actually didn't love it at first at all. I remember being at like this little community rink in Ottawa and skating up to the boards where my mom was sitting in the stands and just like bawling my eyes out because I didn't want to be on the ice. But luckily I grew out of it and ended up loving hockey. And then when I was 5, I joined my first team and been playing ever since.
Yeah, I hear a lot of stories about players not really loving it at first. At least they learn to skate part of it and then obviously sticking
Mhm.
with it. It's kind of funny how that all works out.
Yeah, it's hard being little and um, learning how to skate because it is honestly a very hard skill to learn. So, especially when you're very young, you can get really discouraged by it. So, it's kind of like a universal experience, I find.
Yeah. Now you say you grew up in a athletic family. Where did your dad play football? I'm just curious.
So he played college football for a school in Canada called Acadia. And then out of college, he was drafted to the NFL to San Diego. The way he tells it is he always says he wasn't good enough to make it in the NFL. So he ended up playing in the CFL for the Edmonton Eskimos, who are now the Edmonton Elk, and the Toronto Argonauts in the Ottawa Rough Riders, who are now the Ottawa Red Blacks. But he holds a bunch of records in the CFL and has, I believe, 2 Grey Cup rings with Edmonton.
That's really cool. Hey, not many people can say they've been drafted in the NFL, so that's something
Right?
to brag about a little bit. I feel like I would.
I know he's way too humble. He never like anytime I tell anyone that he played professional football, he's like, "Yeah, I wasn't that good. I played a little bit, like I dabbled, but no, he was phenomenal. He was a free safety and was the best free safety in the CFL during his time."
That's awesome. That's awesome. Who was your favorite hockey player growing up? Was it someone on the Bruins, I assume?
No, actually, my favorite hockey player was Danny Heatley growing up, which was just very random. I just thought that he was like the best thing ever. And going to Sens games growing up, just because the rink was so close to the house I grew up in, um, I got to see him play all the time. And just like little tiny me seeing one player getting a bunch of goals, I was like, okay, that's going to be my favorite player. So I just kind of picked him, and I even had a little necklace when I was growing up that had like the number 15 on it, just because I thought he was so awesome.
Yeah. I don't remember him playing with the Senators. Unfortunately, the
Oh
guys I
yeah.
remember is Daniel Alfredson. He was probably like the
Mhm.
Sens player that I remember the most growing up.
Him and Chris Phillips are the two that are like very ingrained in my mind.
Yeah,
I liked Chara also when he played for the
I
Sens.
love Shara.
Yeah, loved him. And then he went over to Boston, so I like kind of liked that. But him, Chara, Chris Phillips a little bit.
Yeah. I remember Danny Heatley. I think he was with the Thrashers. That's sort of where I remember him playing most of his career.
I know he was drafted to the Thrashers. So
Yeah. It was
yeah.
him and like Kovalchuk, and that was like such a
Mhm.
fun tandem to watch. Like that, I was really small. That was like one of my earliest hockey memories, but those were the best. And I think Kovalchuk might be one of the most underrated players in NHL history.
Likely, yeah. I loved Heatley until his whole accident happened and my parents told me about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't be associated with him. So I kind of like
Yeah.
boycotted Heatley after that, but I thought he was awesome.
Now, before college hockey, you played for the Ottawa Lady Senators. Talk about how you got the opportunity to join that team.
Yeah, so I grew up playing in an association called the Canada Rangers, which is a feeder team into the Lady Sens. So in Bantam, the double A team turns from the Canada Rangers to the Lady Sens. So because I grew up playing kind of like on the double A team for each of the age groups, when I made it to Bantam, I made the double A team, which kind of turned to the Lady Sens. And from there, just kind of stayed within the Lady Sens Association, which was really awesome. But for my final year of junior, I actually switched from the Lady Sens to a team called the Lady 67s.
Was it a name change or like a team change?
It was a team change. I fully switched associations just because one of my best friends in the whole world, her dad is Guy Boucher, and he was coaching the Lady 67s at the time. And I just saw a lot of value in being coached by him. So I decided to make the jump for my last year.
Yeah, it's obviously every time you get a chance to get coached by a former NHL coach, you kind of have to take that opportunity.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I remember I think I had Emma Uryu on the podcast a
Mhm.
few years ago, and I feel like she did the same thing, if I'm not mistaken.
She did. She switched to the 67s the year after I graduated.
Yeah,
But I
that's right.
actually played with Emma in a like selects team for Team Ontario. The 2018 summer games. Her and I were on the same team and just kind of hit it off. She's the best. I absolutely love that girl.
Well, talk about your hockey experience with the Ottawa Lady Senators and the 67s, and what'd you take away from that experience?
It was a really rewarding experience playing for both of them. Obviously, like with the 67s being coached by Guy was like kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. Not everyone gets to do that. So I got a lot of really valuable hockey knowledge from him. Also just playing up in or not playing up, growing up in that junior league. We're playing against some of the best female hockey players in North America who go on to play like Team Canada, Team USA. They majority go on to play college hockey. So it was just really valuable to be pushed by them every game, even being pushed by my own teammates in practice, just all around like made me a better hockey player.
Was Guy Boucher a different coach coaching your team versus when he was at the NHL? Because the thing I remember about him the most was the zone trap defense that he had, where
Mm-hmm.
it sort of like suffocate teams and really make it hard for them to sort of set up offensive zone pressure. Was he sort of like that when you were being coached by him, or was he a little bit different and sort of made you guys sort of more open in regards to sort of the passes that you would create from the defensive zone to the offensive zone?
He was very similar to the way he coached in the NHL, like very strict on systems. So he was the one who ran our power play, ran our penalty kill, ran our breakouts, ran our entries. He didn't do the neutral zone trap though for us. But he was very good at like explaining why we were doing these systems and why they work and stuff like that. But he I think he adjusted his coaching style to women's hockey rather than like NHL men's hockey because they're totally different games. So he was able to understand that and kind of shift his focus a little bit.
Now you were saying how you played with a lot of college hockey players in your time in junior. So how did your junior hockey experience help prepare you for college hockey with Arizona State?
It helped prepare me a lot by just kind of like pushing me every practice and every game by playing with these amazing hockey players and against them. It also just kind of helped me know what to expect in college hockey because a lot of alumni of the junior teams in Ottawa come back and will skate with the teams sometimes, and or just like will stay in touch with their teammates after they graduate. So it was really helpful to be able to talk to them about like what to expect in college hockey.
What's the best memory you have from your Ottawa junior hockey days?
Um, One of them has to be being selected to play for the Ontario Summer Games. That one was really exciting. Also, probably in my midget AA year with the Lady Sens, we won regionals, and that was really exciting for us. I just remember like the seniors, it was such a huge deal for them because they had never done that before. So those two definitely are stuck in my brain.
Now, what made you want to go to play college club hockey at Arizona State? Because you have, if I'm being honest, I thought your sort of career path was very interesting. Playing
Mhm.
club hockey for a year, going to D3, and then coming back to club hockey. And we'll obviously get into all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But sort of what made you want to initially start off playing club hockey and not sort of jump into the collegiate D3 or D1 level?
Yeah, so obviously my recruitment year was a little bit funky because of COVID. I wasn't able to go like tour schools. I wasn't able to have coaches come see me play. It was all basically like through email, through like highlight clips, which aren't really a great teller of what a player is going to be like. So a lot of the coaches that I was talking to wanted me to take gap years, which I didn't want to do. I really value my education, and I think taking a gap year would have kind of hindered my education. So I decided that all of the schools that I was talking to weren't really on the table for me anymore. Um, I had one really great opportunity with the school that was going to let me play for a CJEP in Quebec and then go play for their school, and that was a really viable option. But we looked into it, and none of my credits from the CJEP would have transferred. So that kind of got wiped off the table as well. And I was kind of scrambling for a school to play for. And one of my dad's really good friends has some houses here in Scottsdale. And he said that ASU actually has a women's hockey team. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. I haven't really heard of what this like whole ACHA thing is. And then one of my teammates on 67s committed and signed to play for Liberty. And so I kind of looked into that a little bit and saw like, okay, so ACHA is college hockey. And I reached out to Lindsay Ellis, the coach here at ASU, and she invited me down to Arizona to come skate with the team and tour the school and like tour the rink and stuff. So obviously I accepted. I'm a nice little vacation in Arizona. Did that and just like fell in love with the school. It's if everyone who tours ASU, when they're asked like why did you pick ASU, they're like, how can you not after touring it? Like the campus is phenomenal, the weather is phenomenal. The girls on the team here are some of the best people I've ever met, and the quality of hockey is very good. So um, it just felt natural to end up here, especially with COVID happening, and down south in the States, it wasn't as much of a thing. So I just decided that I was going to make ASU my home.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And how'd you sort of navigate the challenge of the pandemic? Because I sort of forget that your class probably had it the worst because it was in the middle of like your season where it got shut down. Then you didn't get to play the next season, so you really didn't have the chance to sort of showcase yourself to other schools. So I just sort of handled that adversity of not really playing a lot of games before playing college hockey.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely really hard. I spent my entire season with the 67s just practicing. Like we had a couple games that were scrimmages, but they were 4-on-4 just because like COVID restrictions and stuff. So it was really difficult to um kind of just practice every day, kind of like for nothing is what it felt like. Like we're practicing systems, we're doing drills with our lines, but like we're never really gonna play as a line. It was hard, and I could tell that a lot of the girls on the team were kind of in the same boat as me with like this is hard and what are we doing? Um, but I think in the long run, it made us all better hockey players because we did get to just practice every day and kind of like work on the little details of our game. And my dad kind of kept telling me, he's like, this is going to translate really well into your first year of college hockey because you have been working so hard on these little things that you've had to work on your whole career, but like haven't really had time to work on because you were so focused on winning the next game or like going to the next tournament. So just kind of keeping that in mind was really helpful.
And talk about what it's like playing in the ACHA and just club hockey in general, because I feel like it's the most underrated division of college hockey, in my opinion, because you're with
Mhm,
players that really love the game. Like
mhm,
for a lot of players, like you can make the argument that you really have to love the game in order to play club hockey because you're sort of paying for your own equipment, your own gear, your own ice time, where other
mhm,
schools that's not really the case. So I'm curious sort of like what it's like playing in club hockey, getting to go to cool places and
mhm.
sort of playing with players that like really love the sport like you do.
Yeah, I think ACHA is so underrated for the quality of hockey. Like teams just like Liberty can compete at NCAA Division One levels. I firmly believe that they can compete with majority of the Division One teams in the NCAA. There is a lot of depth in the ACHA, which I think is its biggest like weakness is that you'll have the Liberties of the world, and then you'll have newer programs like Air Force, which we beat like 29-0. So I think that's a little bit difficult, but the quality of hockey is very strong when you have top teams playing each other. It's also just awesome to, like you said, be playing with players that love the game so much that they are willing to pay to play hockey. Um, it's the teams are all made up of people who are really passionate about the game and really passionate about the sport. And a lot of the girls actually had opportunities to play NCAA or play U Sports, but decided that they'd rather play ACHA because it's college hockey, but the workload isn't as heavy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, talk a little bit about the major and classes that you are taking and how do you balance academics and hockey at Arizona State?
So I'm a criminal justice major with a minor in psychology. I'm taking a lot of like law related classes, crime and policy related classes, a lot of criminal justice like research methods, and then on the psychology side, obviously like all the basic psychology classes. And I find balancing it isn't that difficult because I grew up doing that my entire life. I was going to practice every night. I was going to tournaments every weekend, away games every weekend, missing a lot of school and having to balance it with my high school workload, which arguably was harder doing when I was like 18 and under. So it just kind of feels natural. It's really nothing new for me, I find, but I know a lot of people do struggle with it. For more like tedious majors like computer science or a lot of the like pre-med girls on my team have a really hard time balancing hockey in school, but everyone does a really good job, I find.
Yeah. What are you going to try to do with that degree once you graduate? I'm assuming become a
Mm.
lawyer.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to go to law school after.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, what's the process like for joining the club hockey team at ASU? I know there is a tryout process, but from what I've been told, it's a lot of like college hockey, I guess, where you get recruited. Obviously,
Mhm.
from your experience, you emailed the coach and she obviously showed you around the program and facilities, and that sort of led you to want to join the team, and they sort of save a spot for you. I'm just
Mhm.
curious from your perspective, how did you join the team and what's the usual process like for being an ASU women's hockey player?
Yeah, so the usual process is you either get scouted by our coaches or you reach out and then the coaches will kind of like look at your stats, look at your highlights, and determine if they want to move forward with the recruitment process. So for me, when I reached out, she just kind of like looked and she's like, okay, she's playing in the junior league in Ontario, has to be a decent hockey player. And then from there, you either get invited to come skate with the team so that our coaches can like get their eyes on you and the girls can kind of interact with you because one of the big emphases on the team is personalities. We've had phenomenal hockey players come skate with us, but we can just tell that they aren't the greatest people and we won't take them on the team just based off of how they act and behave around the team. So that's a big kind of thing. So if you can't come down and skate with the team, you'll hop on a Zoom call with a lot of the captains or a lot of the big personalities on the team. She'll put our leadership group and occasionally a couple freshmen. I get to go on a lot of the calls with the recruits. So that's really fun just to like chat with them, kind of hear about their hockey history and whatever. And from there, you'll either be offered a spot or you'll be like respectfully declined. And if you're offered a spot, you aren't at risk of losing it during tryouts the next year. But tryouts are something we do every year. We get a lot of girls who come to ASU who didn't know we had a hockey team, so didn't reach out to our coach or didn't get like scouted or whatnot. So they come out to tryouts. And for the past 2 years, we've had walk-ons make the team. This year we had a freshman walk-on make the team, and she ended up actually being one of our best players. So the tryouts are really valuable for us to see people that might have kind of gone under the radar. But for the most part, it's recruiting and through commitments.
Yeah. And obviously you want to build that good culture because you can have the most talented team, but if there's no cohesiveness, then it's just not going to translate on the ice.
Exactly. And that is what a lot of our success this season came from. The locker room kind of dynamic was like no other this season. Like it was such a great place to be. Like everyone was so excited to go to practice every day and go to games and do like bus trips with the team just because we loved being around each other so much. So seeing how well that translated into our success this season, we kind of want to keep that rolling, and making sure we're bringing on good people to the team to like kind of help feed that healthy culture.
Now, your first year at ASU, you put up insane numbers, having 45 points in 20 games, not a big deal, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think was the key for your individual success that season, and how did you continue to get better in that area as the season progressed? Because it seemed like I'm assuming you did a good job with your playmaking ability since you got a lot of assists.
Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest things that helped me, like I said before, was just my COVID season of literally just practicing every day. So like just doing, focusing on like the little things of my game that I knew I needed to work on. Just like my hands weren't like up to college hockey standards before that little COVID season, and I just worked on that the whole season, and that was really helpful. Also, just being given a chance to play on one of the top lines on the team was really helpful, and being put with some awesome hockey players. One of my biggest helpers on the team was Jill Ketchum. She transferred from Adrian College, and she just like has a really great scoring touch. So her and I worked really well together on power play, on penalty kill, on our line. I'd just like be able to feed her pucks and she just put them in the net, and it just really helped with my points.
What was the biggest adjustment that you had to make in college hockey? Because looking at your stats, it seems like there wasn't a lot of adjustment from your perspective, but I feel like there had to have been some sort of adjustment that you had to
Mm-hmm.
make.
One of the biggest things was getting used to the threat of there being scratches. So if you're not performing in practice, if you're not performing in games, you won't play, which isn't something that in women's junior hockey you get, because they take just enough players on the team, like maybe enough for 3 lines plus an extra forward kind of thing. So kind of just adjusting to, if you aren't performing, you aren't going to play, was a big thing. And I think that really helped push me. Like I came all the way from Canada to Arizona State to play hockey, and I want to play. So I just like went above and beyond to make sure that every game I secured a roster spot.
Yeah. Do you think that helps your team success a little bit too? Because you're all pushing each other to obviously play, but that obviously makes you better players as well.
Definitely. It's helpful for obviously the more bubble players to know like, okay, if I don't show up to practice today and give it my all, I'm probably not going to play this weekend. Which in turn kind of goes all the way up the ladder to the top line, where you have the second line then being like, okay, well, if I don't perform, then the top line is going to be the top line this weekend and not us. So we're kind of just like pushing each other all kind of through the food chain, which is really awesome.
Now, talk about your team's performance your freshman year and what did you take away from it?
We had for that season was a record breaking season, which then got broken this season, which is awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was really exciting for us to go into playoffs being like the favored team to win the WWCHL, which unfortunately we got upset by CU Boulder. Um, it was really difficult. I broke my wrist in February last season, so I was out for the second half of the season as well as playoffs. So I had to kind of like sit out and watch the team, and that was really difficult. And it was really difficult watching us get upset by CU Boulder, but it's hockey, and accidents like things like that happen. So it's kind of to be expected that that teams are going to push us. Even if you're the favored team to win, you're not always going to win. But it really kind of put a chip on our shoulder for this season, which I think gave us that extra push we needed to be better this season.
Yeah, I think that what makes hockey special is the sort of the not the bet that sometimes even if you're considered the best team, it doesn't mean that you're going to win the game. And from a fan perspective, it's nice to have that parity in other different conferences because you just never know what you're going to get in every game.
Definitely. Yeah. It's it's easy to be the favorite team, but it's not easy to win as a favorite team because everyone's out to get you.
Yeah, and we're seeing that right now all the way up the top of the NHL. The Bruins have, the record-breaking season, and the
Mhm.
Panthers, who barely made the playoffs, might knock them out. So I think that's, I know I'm going on a tangent, but that's sort of what makes hockey special, in my opinion.
I totally agree. It makes it more fun to watch.
Yeah. The only thing I know about Boulder is it was in that Chainsmoker song. So that's
Mhm.
about the mattress. I don't know if you've ever heard that song
Yeah. Oh yeah, I definitely know it. They have actually a gorgeous campus. My first road trip my freshman year was to CU Boulder, and it looks like Hogwarts. Like it looks straight out of Harry Potter. It's gorgeous, like the mountains and the snow, and they have a really nice rink. It was just like it was really cool going there and being like, "Whoa, okay, like this is kind of awesome."
Well, after your freshman year, you transferred to Norwich College, where you played in only 4 games. I wanted to ask you what led you to transfer to Norwich and just talk about your experience there for the few games that you did play there.
Yeah, so like I said before, my COVID season kind of really put a damper in my recruitment. So I always kind of had in the back of my mind like I could have gone NCAA. I I I know I have the skill to do it. So I kind of just kept I felt like I missed out on something. I felt like I was kind of robbed of something. So when I was putting up those numbers my freshman year, I did have a couple Division 1 coaches reach out to me and say, we'd love to discuss you possibly playing for us. You do have to enter the transfer portal to do so, though. Just even though it's an ACHA team that I was playing for, because it's an NCAA school, I have to be in the transfer portal to speak to them. So I entered the portal and I was unaware that when you put your name in the portal, every school can see you from like Division 1 to Division 3. All the coaches can see your name. So I went in just to talk to a few specific schools about scholarships and whatnot. And then I started getting emails from every Division 3 team. And I was like, what is going on right now? I have no interest in playing Division 3. It was either I'm going to play Division 1 or I'm going to stay at ASU. And so then Sophie Leclerc, who was the head coach at Norwich, emailed me and she sent me a really nice message just saying, like, I saw your name in the portal. I'm really interested in having a conversation with you. Even if you don't want to play for me, I'd love to talk to you just about like the transfer process because she had transferred from University of Vermont to Norwich when she was playing college hockey. And she was just saying, like, I understand it's a huge decision to make. It's hard to do it without guidance. So if you'd allow me, like, I'd love to talk to you about it. I'd love to like give you a couple tips, whatever. So I thought that was really nice of her. And I knew that Norwich was one of the best Division 3 teams in NCAA. So I narrowed it down to speaking to this Division 1 school that I originally wanted to talk to and Norwich. And I went on my visits of those schools. The Division 1 school was kind of like a crazy tour. It just didn't go as planned. As I was driving there, I get a call from their athletic director, and she says, "We actually just fired our head coach, who was recruiting me." And she's like, "We'll still honor anything that he promised you, anything that he offered. You can come for the tour. It's going to be hectic. It's not going to really go as a tour should go." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. I'll still come." Did it. I didn't really love the school. Didn't really love the team dynamic, whatever. I just thought, you know what? No, not interested. And then I drove to Vermont and toured Norwich, and it was just like everything I dreamed of as a college hockey player. Like the facilities are amazing. The school was gorgeous. The team was just like awesome. The girls were so nice. The coaches were awesome. And I was like, you know what? I didn't want to play Division 3, but I think I want to play Division 3 for this team. So I committed there, whatever. Got there in August, was practicing with the team, all that stuff. First game rolls around, we're playing Utica. I was really excited. Like I made it in the lineup. My final shift of the game, there's a minute left in the third period. I separate my shoulder. And it was just like, oh my God, I just got back from a broken wrist. I missed the second half of my season at ASU. And now I'm going to be missing 3 to 6 months for a separated shoulder at a school I just came to. And so that was really, really hard to deal with for me. And it kind of made me sit back and think, am I at this school because I want to go to the school? I want to receive an education from the school. I like the location, all this stuff. Or am I here because I just want to play hockey? And I realized that I only chose that school because of hockey. And I knew that I chose ASU for more than just hockey. I chose it for the education. I chose it for the location. I chose it for like all of the friends I made there. And I kind of realized that I felt more at home at ASU than I did at Norwich. I came back from my shoulder injury at Norwich. I finished off the first half of the season. That's where the 4 games I got to play came from. And in my midseason interview with my coach, I said that I won't be coming back after Christmas. And I then reached back out to Lindsay, the coach at ASU, and I kind of told her my situation, told her what I realized, and she was obviously a little bit hesitant to just jump right in and be like, yes, come back, because obviously I left. It's kind of like a breakup. Like I told her I was transferring. I told her I was going elsewhere. So she talked to the other coaches, talked to the captains, and they all decided that they'll take me back on the team, which I'm really, really grateful for. And so I came back after Christmas and just kind of jumped right back in where I left off.
Yeah. At least you got this. I think you scored a goal in Division 3, so at least you got to say that.
Yeah, I scored a goal in, I think, my second game I got to play. So that was really exciting.
And obviously, isn't it? So obviously, you had to go through adversity with the shoulder separation, with you breaking your wrist, and sort of realizing like that, that school wasn't for you. How do you sort of handle it mentally? That's something that I think a lot of players don't realize about the transfer portal, sort of the mental aspect of it, like how it
Mhm.
can affect you mentally being somewhere and not really knowing like what your place is. And obviously, once you realize that Norwich wasn't your place, heading back to ASU and all of that process, how did you sort of handle that mentally?
Yeah, it was really difficult. Like, just especially from the shoulder injury, I was already in a tough place mentally. Having to like watch my team practice every day without me, kind of seeing all of the work I put in during the off season go to waste because I can't even go for a run. Like I can barely dress myself, let alone stay in shape. So that was really difficult to do. And then finally realizing I actually don't want to go to this school. I was a lot happier at ASU. Was really hard, and having those conversations with my parents was really difficult. Having those conversations with my teammates at Norwich was very difficult. um Also just the unknown of, is ASU going to take me back, and if they don't, my hockey career is over. I had to come to terms with, if ASU decides they don't want me back on the team, I'm going to have to quit hockey and just go to school in Ottawa, whatever, just kind of like live the rest of my life as just a normal college student. That was really difficult to come to terms with. But then it was really relieving knowing that ASU did take me back, but then that brought a whole new set of challenges of, is the team going to accept me back? Like obviously the coaches took me back, but is the team going to welcome me with open arms? Because I was best friends with a lot of the girls on this team, and then told them, hey, just so you know, I'm transferring. So they have all the reasons in the world to be upset with me for that and not want me back on the team, not trust me again, not know like, oh, is she going to leave again? Like, does she think she's too good for us? Is that why she left? All this stuff. But like I said, the girls on this team are some of the best people I've met in my entire life. And they made me feel so beyond welcome coming back, which was just really helpful because I was in such a tough spot mentally. They just made everything so much easier for me.
How does the admission thing work, transferring from one school and then going back?
Transferring out was a lot easier because Norwich really helped me with all of it because I was playing on an NCAA team there. They helped my admission process to Norwich. They helped my transfer out process from ASU. I had the NCAA kind of giving me a hand doing that. Transferring back in, however, was very difficult because the main thing is the student visa. Because I'm an international student, I had to get it transferred from ASU to Norwich, which Norwich kind of did all that for me. And then transferring it back from Norwich to ASU was really difficult because I didn't have the NCAA helping me this time. This was kind of just like all me figuring it out myself. Um, and obviously, it looks a little weird to Homeland Security seeing like, why is this girl jumping back and forth between schools? Like that kind of flags the system a little bit. Um, it took a lot of different like paperwork, filling out things with my parents. But it luckily got sorted out within the span of a couple of weeks, but it was really stressful and not fun to do at all.
Especially trying to get it done before the second semester begins, because usually you have the whole summer to sort of figure that
Yeah.
out. And now you only have like 3 or 4 weeks to sort of figure it out.
Yeah, I did it all over Christmas break, and I we hadn't like as soon as I got my visa transferred over and like got confirmation of it, we booked our flights to Arizona the next day. So like it was just kind of like us like on edge waiting to finally get that confirmation to be able to fly out, because we had like away games in Denver like 2 days after I got my visa transferred over. And Lindsay was like, if you can get here for that, I'll play you. Just like see where you're at. So I was really hoping to get back for that, and just like anticipating getting it transferred over in that little amount of time that I had was just like a whole crazy 3 weeks. And as soon as I finally got the confirmation, it was just like a big sigh of relief. Everyone was
Yeah.
just like calm finally, but it was crazy for a bit.